I let my friends guess how small he is. He heard me, left that night, and won't take my calls. I'm Mia. I'm 28 years old and I work behind the counter at a coffee shop on the east side of the city. I live in a small apartment with my boyfriend Jake. He is 30, a quiet man who fixes cars at a garage a few blocks away. I thought we were happy. I thought we were building a life together. Now it has been 3 weeks since he walked out, and not one text or call has been answered. I keep staring at my phone, waiting for a reply that never comes. I keep wondering how a person can disappear so completely. I keep asking myself what I did that was so wrong, but deep down I know. I know the moment it all fell apart. It started about 6 months ago in the winter. The cold made everything feel tighter, including the space in our bed. Jake and I had been together for 2 years. He was gentle, kind, always made me coffee in the morning, always asked how my day was. He never raised his voice. He never forgot a birthday. But there was one thing that bothered me, a thing I tried to ignore at first, then tried to talk about, then tried to laugh about with my friends. That thing was his size. In the bedroom he was small, not just a little small but noticeably small. I told myself it didn't matter, that love was more important. But after a while I felt unsatisfied. I started to feel like something was missing. I started to feel like I deserved more. I didn't say anything to Jake at first. I just made little jokes, hoping he would get the hint. I would say things like, I wish you could fill me up more, or I need a bigger man sometimes. He would blush and look away. He never argued. He never told me I was hurting him. He just got quiet. I told myself he was shy. I told myself he would try harder. But he didn't. He just kept being the same quiet Jake. I started venting to my two best friends, Sarah and Emma. We've known each other since high school. We share everything. Sarah works in an office downtown, and Emma is a nurse at the hospital. They're both blunt, the kind of women who tell you the truth even if it stings. I told them about Jake's size, how it was making me unhappy. They listened, they nodded, they said they understood. Sarah said, if you're not satisfied, you should tell him straight. Emma said, maybe you need to find someone who can actually please you. Their words made me feel validated. I felt like I was not the bad guy. I felt like I was just a woman who wanted what every woman wants, to be satisfied. After that, I started to bring it up more often. I would make comments after we had sex. I would say, that was nice, but I still feel empty. I would compare him to ex-boyfriends, saying things like, my last boyfriend was so much bigger, I could really feel him. I thought I was just being honest. I thought honesty was good for a relationship. I thought Jake would try harder if he knew how I felt, but he didn't. He just got quieter. He stopped initiating sex. He would roll over and face the wall. I told myself he was being selfish. I told myself he was the one ruining our intimacy. Then I started to notice other things. I would check his phone when he was in the shower. I wanted to see if he was watching porn, maybe to see if he was comparing himself to those men. I found some videos, but they were just normal stuff. I felt a weird mix of relief and disappointment. I wanted to catch him feeling insecure so I could say, see, you know you're small, but I never found that. Instead I found texts from his brother asking about car parts and a message from his mom wishing him a good day. Nothing juicy. Nothing that could prove my point, but I kept checking anyway. I was obsessed. I would bring up his size in front of our friends, not just Sarah and Emma, but also the larger group. We would be sitting in a bar and I would say, Jake's so small, he can't even fill up a shot glass. Everyone would laugh. Jake would sit there, his face turning red, his eyes fixed on his drink. He never said a word. I thought it was harmless banter. I thought he knew I was joking. But he wasn't laughing. He was shrinking into himself. One night, about 2 months before the end, we had a big fight. I told him I was tired of being unsatisfied. I told him I needed a man who could actually please me. I said, I don't know if I can stay with you if you can't give me what I need. He looked at me with those quiet eyes and said, I'm trying to be enough for you. I said, trying isn't enough. I need a bigger man. He turned away. He didn't cry. He just went to the bedroom and closed the door. I slept on the couch. In the morning, he made me coffee as usual, but he didn't look at me. He didn't say good morning. I told Sarah and Emma about the fight. They said, you deserve better, you should leave him. I felt a surge of righteousness. I felt like I was the victim of a man who couldn't satisfy me. I felt like I was being strong by demanding what I deserved. The pattern kept repeating. I would make a comment, he would get quiet, I would feel frustrated, I would vent to my friends, they would validate me, I would feel justified. It became a loop. I didn't see the damage I was doing. I only saw my own dissatisfaction. The night it all broke was a Friday. Sarah and Emma came over for wine. We were in the living room, music playing, the three of us laughing. I had had a few glasses and I was feeling loose. I started talking about Jake again. I said, you guys, his thing is so tiny, I bet you can't even guess how small. Sarah laughed and said, I bet it's like a baby carrot. Emma said, no, more like a thumb. I pulled out my phone and showed them a picture I had taken one night when Jake was sleeping. Just a quick snap of his penis, flaccid, small. I said, look, this is it. What do you think? They giggled, they made faces, they guessed numbers. 2 inches, 1.5, it's so cute, like a little button. We laughed and laughed. I felt a rush of power, like I was finally being heard. Then I heard the front door open. Jake walked in. He must have heard everything. He must have heard us laughing, the words tiny, 2 inches, cute little button. He looked at me, then at Sarah and Emma, then at my phone still in my hand, the picture still on the screen. His face was white. He didn't say a word. He just turned around, walked into the bedroom, and started packing a bag. I followed him, my heart pounding. I said, Jake, wait, it was just a joke, we were just playing around. He didn't look at me. He said, I heard you, I heard everything. His voice was flat, no anger, just a quiet emptiness that scared me more than yelling. I said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it, I was just venting. He zipped his bag and said, you told them to guess how small I am. You showed them a picture, that's not venting, that's humiliation. I reached for his arm, he pulled away. He said, I can't be with someone who treats me like a joke. He walked out of the bedroom, out of the apartment, and out of my life. The door clicked shut. I stood there, the silence ringing in my ears. Sarah and Emma were still in the living room, but they had stopped laughing. They looked at me, eyes wide. Sarah said, maybe you should go after him. I ran to the window and saw him walking down the street, his bag over his shoulder, his head down. I called his name, but he didn't turn. I called his phone. It rang, but he didn't answer. That was 3 weeks ago. He hasn't answered a single call or text since. I've left voicemails, I've sent messages on every app we use, I've even sent a letter to his mom's house, asking her to tell him I'm sorry. She called me back and said, Jake asked me not to pass on any messages, he needs space. I asked her if he was okay. She said, he's hurt, Mia, he's really hurt. I tried to talk to Sarah and Emma about it. At first they were sympathetic. They said he overreacted, it was just a joke. But after a few days, they stopped responding to my texts. I asked Sarah to meet for coffee, and she said she was busy. I asked Emma to come over, and she said she had a shift. I felt a chill. I realized they were pulling away. Then I heard from a mutual friend, Mark, that Jake had moved in with his brother on the other side of town. Mark said, he told me he needed a fresh start. He said he couldn't trust you anymore. I asked Mark if Jake said anything else. Mark hesitated, then said, he said he felt like he was never enough for you, and that night he realized you saw him as a punchline. He said he'd rather be alone than be someone's joke. The words hit me like a slap. I had never thought of it that way. I thought I was just being honest, just venting my frustration. I thought he would understand that I needed more. But he felt like a punchline. He felt like his body was a joke. And I was the one who made him feel that way. I started to see the damage I had done, not just to him but to our friends. Sarah and Emma had been my support system, but now they were gone. They had seen me humiliate the man I claimed to love, and they couldn't unsee it. I tried to explain to them that I was just frustrated, that I loved Jake, that I didn't mean to hurt him. They listened, but they looked at me differently. Emma finally said, Mia, you crossed a line. You made him feel worthless. That's not something you can just apologize away. I lost my job a week after Jake left. The coffee shop owner, Linda, called me into her office. She said, Mia, you've been distracted, making mistakes, and customers have noticed your attitude. I'm sorry, but I have to let you go. I wanted to argue, but I knew she was right. I had been so consumed by my own drama that I couldn't focus. I had been calling out sick, showing up late, snapping at coworkers. I had lost my professional footing. Now I sit in our empty apartment, the one we used to share. The walls are bare where his posters used to hang. The bathroom still has his toothbrush in the holder, but he won't be back to use it. I call his phone and it goes straight to voicemail. I leave a message, my voice cracking, Jake, I'm sorry. I didn't see what I was doing. I was selfish. I was wrong. Please, can we talk? He never responds. I've started to see him in my dreams. In the dreams, he's smiling, holding my hand, telling me it's okay. Then I wake up and the silence reminds me it's not okay. I've started to see a therapist. She asks me why I think I treated him that way. I tell her I was frustrated, that I wanted more. She asks me, did you ever think about how he felt? I shake my head. I realize I never did. I never considered his feelings. I only saw my own dissatisfaction. I've tried to move on. I've gone on a couple of dates, but every time I sit across from a new man, I find myself comparing him to Jake. Not his size, but his kindness, his quiet way of making me feel safe. I miss the way he would make me coffee in the morning, the way he would ask about my day, the way he would listen without judging. I miss the small things. I took those for granted because I was obsessed with one thing that didn't even matter as much as I thought. Last week, I saw Jake at the grocery store. He was with a woman I didn't recognize. She was laughing at something he said, and he was smiling, a real smile I hadn't seen in months. My heart stopped. I wanted to run up to him to apologize, to tell him I still love him. But I just stood there frozen. He saw me. Our eyes met for a second. Then he looked away, took the woman's hand, and walked down another aisle. He didn't even acknowledge me. That was the moment I knew it was over. Not just the relationship, but the chance to fix what I broke. He had moved on. He had found someone who saw him as more than a body, more than a punchline. He had found someone who gave him the respect I never did. I went home and cried for hours. I realized I had lost the best thing in my life because I was so focused on one flaw that I couldn't see the whole person. I had let my friends guess his size, turned his body into a game, and humiliated him in a way that can't be undone. He heard me, left that night, and won't take my calls. And now I'm left with the silence I created. I still call his number sometimes, just to hear his voicemail message, just to remember his voice. I know he won't answer. I know I can't undo what I did. I know I have to live with the regret. But a part of me still hopes that one day he'll pick up, that he'll give me a chance to say I'm sorry, that he'll forgive me. I know it's a selfish hope. I know I'm still thinking about my own pain, but it's the only hope I have left. So I sit here in the quiet apartment, staring at the phone, waiting for a call that will never come. I let my friends guess how small he is. He heard me. He left. And now I'm alone with the sound of my own mistakes.